Okay.
That's it.
Sounds good. My nephew would have arrived last night, sometime during the night.
Okay.
Nephew would have. I'm excited about
Is
that.
that the little one that I met at church? Well,
Yes,
he's not little, but yeah.
yes, yes. Destin. I
Yes.
am
Uh,
excited. And it's so funny because he is such he's got such a huge personality, and he's a helper. Not only is he a helper, he's a leader in that he's always like, let's do this and let's get this started, and so yeah, I was like putting in my request
I know,
already.
right?
I'm putting in my request already. I was like, ooh, because last summer there was some stuff that he helped me with here at the house, and
Mhm.
so um yeah, and he said, I guess he had said to my brother that he was disappointed that I didn't hike as much last year as I had in
Oh
previous.
yeah, that was the one that's always like, "Are we going walking? Are you gonna?"
Yeah, yeah. So, and I haven't done much walking either this year. So I'm gonna have to organize some stuff because I think that part of we have such rich conversations in the woods,
Yeah.
because I am, how I am. I am so like reverent and observant of nature and the messages that are there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm constantly having conversation with him. Um, my other niece and nephew, they are, sometimes they aren't as quite as inquisitive, or interested.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it that way. Um, and I would really like to find a way of getting them more interested in, yeah, in those conversations, because I think that they're so rich when you start to look at life and symbolically, I'll say it that way. Um, so, sometimes when I go into the woods with my nephew, it's like we talk about a tree that fell, and that and how that we talk about it in terms of even life here, so once something dies, there is still a process that goes on called decay. And so just because there is absence of life doesn't mean that there is absence of activity. And so, to have conversations, that revolve around even stuff like that, I think is just something to ponder, um, what is it? What is life? What is all of this stuff? And so I love just having, in-depth conversations,
Mm-hmm.
especially with kids. And yeah, and so my niece and nephew that is here all the time, sometimes they just act like, oh, we got to deal with you and your conversation. Like, give me a video game, please.
They
Like,
probably had to practice escapism for a very long time.
yes, 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 yes. I thank you for that. Yeah, so they do escape me.
No, it's not just you, Auntie Sandra.
Yeah. Anyway, so happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. It's a good day. I went outside to meditate in the grass this morning and it was good. It was
Yeah.
really, really good. Really good. I wish that I could sit like just my bare bottom, not like bare bottom, but without having a pillow or a cushion under me. I don't know though. But
Because you
yeah,
don't have any grubs in your grass.
I don't want to find out that way.
He lives 16 feet down. He only comes around. You remember that Ohio Player
No.
song?
What is all? Tell me. I know Ohio
Ohio
players.
Players.
Yeah, tell me the song.
There's a worm in the ground, lives 16 feet down. He only comes around. And when he comes out of his hole, it sounds something like this. Oh, you don't remember? Like
No,
9
ma'am.
cans of shaving power. That's funky.
Oh Lord, no. And you know all the words. Look at there. Mm-mm.
I forget what the name of the song is. Um,
Ooh,
uh,
that was a throwback that kind of touched my little heart. Ohio players, my gosh. Mm.
yeah, that was a
Oh,
jam.
I don't
Anyway.
know that song, but I know the Ohio players.
Oh my gosh. I gotta think of that song. Yeah. Anyway, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I'm excited about today because today we are going to continue in on this. And I will tell you, I had some revelations. I had revelations throughout the day yesterday.
Me
And
too, Sandra. Wow.
yes, and it's so juicy good. Um, I left here after I did the show, kind of. I sat here and messed around on the computer because I thought that I can watch a funeral live stream. And then
Okay.
the time of the funeral came and it wasn't live streaming. I was like, what is that, Vernon? Hey, sweetheart? Ah, thank you. Thank you. Look, I didn't even know that you could see my hair, but thank you. um, but I went to and Vernon probably remembers that song. Anyway, and the Ohio Players. Anyway, but I hightailed it out of here going to the funeral, to a
Mhm.
funeral, and of course saw all of these people from the neighborhood and people that I went to elementary school with, and just people, people, people. And it's really interesting because, doing this work, it causes you to be way more on alert, I think, to the stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So across the board, it makes you more alert. And so as I was talking and having conversation with people, I even had to reflect on my own level of fear. So if we were talking about,
Oh, good.
yeah, when we were talking about fear yesterday, faith in anything, be it positive or negative, produces results. And so, my friend Tyra, who and she tells me, don't put me on Facebook, whatever. But when she talks to me, I can go for now. Tyra and I used to be thick as thieves in elementary school. Everybody thought that we were sisters because there is some resemblance. We do resemble each other a little bit, mostly in complexion, but you could kind of draw other like things if you're really looking for something. Anyway, every time I talk to Tyra, though, it can be a year since I talked to her. And she will finish up the conversation like, did you get married yet?
Your favorite question in the whole wide world.
Oh my gosh, she that is like 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 you ain't did nothing until you can say yes to that question. I don't want to hear about this. I don't want to hear about no ministry. I don't want to hear about no book right now. I don't want to hear about, what John. I don't want to hear did you get married yet? It's like, girl, come on. So bless her heart. She bless her heart. And it's such so
after a while you stop and say, well, Sandra, is that an aspiration that you have? So I can stop asking the question.
Right, you would think. But I think that everybody has this like hope alive for Sandra kind of thing.
Oh, geez.
And it just, I sometimes it just boggles my mind, So yeah, so it's hilarious to me. And so my friend Sharon was there, and Sharon is like, well, I ain't married either, and ain't about to get married. And she's, Sharon is just like, she gonna be raw about it, but it just kind of brought up a lot of stuff for me. And so I finally, rather than get upset with Tyra about her questions about it, I finally said to her, I was like, I'm really, really good. And she was like, well, I just want to understand, like she just want to understand. And I was like, well, I said, Tyra,
did you let her finish her sentence?
Huh?
What did she just want to understand? What?
Why? If I had some resistance to being married, if I had resistance to being married.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
wow.
So we had that conversation. It was cool. And so it's just, so being around people that you've known since elementary school, who've been in your life to whatever degree. I mean, because surely there are years that we don't see each other at all.
Exactly.
But even when we went out to lunch yesterday, and even in the bathroom stall, it took me back to elementary school and how we would raise our hand like, oh, Miss so-and-so, Miss Isley, can we go to the bathroom? And all of us getting in stalls one after the other in different stalls or whatever, and doing our bit. So there was, there's that familiarity, that love that I remember when I was, first and second grade with some of these girls and women now.
Women, right? That's just so cool.
Some years later, yeah. And so yeah, it is, but just to kind of talk about that, and either when we're talking about here, let me, and you guys, I'm jumping right into this because we're working out of Anatomy of the Spirit. If you haven't heard, we are doing, it's by Carolyn Miss. We are on the second chakra, and this chakra is dealing with just, it's all kind of stuff as far as relationships are concerned. And so if I'm picking up where we left off yesterday, it says when we're motivated by fear, we can easily be seduced by false gods, the false gods of sex, of power, and of money, right? And a lot of times when we think about those, we talk about seeing life symbolically, but we don't think about what our false gods are. We, when we think about false gods, a lot of times we think about the golden calf. But if you think symbolically, what is your golden calf right now? I mean,
right.
just
if you just understand that there is one.
Yes. Yeah.
or two or three, but yeah, there is.
Right, right. Right. And a lot of times we don't recognize that we have, that we have this need to have something that we're holding up that validates us, that we think makes us important,
Yes,
especially in the eyes of others. Um, Something that we've got to put out there.
yes.
And sometimes our golden calf is money, sometimes it's our car,
Hmm.
sometimes it's a relationship.
Hmm.
We get a lot of, I mean, sometimes it's our education. I mean, any number of things, any of these. Sometimes we don't recognize that we give our power over to these things. I want to talk. Let me let me say this. Once seduced, this is her next line in here. Once seduced, we abdicate our control to the seductive authority of like dysfunctional personal relationships, external sources of money or security, the experience that we remember long after it should have been put to bed, any number of things. So we abdicate our identity. Now, let me see if I could give an example of this. The example is say for instance, ooh, there's some good ones. Do I want to go there yet though? Because that'll take me down another rabbit hole. Okay, so wait a minute. So let's back up. Let's back up, right? So we can easily be seduced by these false gods. Sometimes what we see is that people come in, and their false god may be, how they perceive themselves to be perceived. Now, I don't know if this makes sense to you guys, but let me explain it to you in this way. My brother, the one that has passed, I can use him as an example. My brother used to be like, dapper. I'll say it like that. That boy used to dress his ass off. As a matter of fact, he would tell you that he had at least 140 pairs of jeans. Now, why anybody would need 140 pairs of jeans is beyond me, right? I don't know when can you wear, and he would have them, he would go to my girlfriend Crystal and have them altered, tailored so that they were, the right perfect waist, and the hit his shoe at the right place. And then, got to have the take them to the dry cleaners so that the crease would be a certain way, and then hang them up so then he didn't have any creases in them that he didn't want. He had to hang them in a certain way, everything. And this was his image, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
was so into his image that when he would look at other people, he would be like, his shoes is,
Well,
he
most people that are like that, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I can read him his story automatically. I could tell his whole life story just from that little bit of information right there. I'm like, well, that makes sense. He's full of judgment. Most people like that are. So yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so funny because a lot of times what people don't, um they put so much stock in it that they never take a pause to see, what is this, what can this, what possible thing could this be saying about me,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you
So
when you see
interesting.
huh
I just say you're right. It's so interesting. I just
yeah, yeah. So even, like one of my neighbors, said to me one time, he was like, yeah, it takes me a couple of hours just to get dressed. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, you're a guy, you don't wear makeup and you don't have hair. How could it possibly take you a couple of hours to get dressed?
And
Right?
he
That's what I
changes.
was thinking.
He was changing clothes 1,000 times.
I was like, it's just not that serious.
But it is
So
to him. I don't know
yes,
what that is
yes.
though, but it's true.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It is. It's yeah, that's their
But we don't normally qualify those things as false gods. If you were to
but
say,
they are.
yes, but if you were to say that to somebody, they'd be like, what? What? You know, what you talking about, Willis, kind of thing. Because
Mm.
it is something that they so automatically do, they never consider it. I met a guy one time at a grocery store, and he approached me in the grocery store. I used to get approached a lot in the grocery store, thank God. And you know, so you guys also, I recognize that there is, and I say this to people all the time, that there is power in our words and how we feel about certain things. And I know when I had moments where I was resenting how people approached me and stuff like that, when that resentment actually cut, that it was almost as if there was a faucet that was running and I started resenting it and it cut the faucet off. So now it's like, I'm just so thankful have the desire to talk to me and approach me and all of that stuff. So yes, I will say it like that. So thank God people used to approach me in the grocery store. So anyway, so this guy came up and he approached me in the grocery store. We kind of, hey, what's your name, blah blah blah, a little chit chat, and he says, well, I'll meet you in the parking lot. And I'm thinking, you gonna meet me in the parking lot? What? We can just walk along. I'm thinking to myself, right? And anyway, I was like, okay, I guess that's what you got to do. Go to the parking lot to get a phone number. I don't know, whatever. But when I come out of the store finally with my groceries in hand, I come out of the store, and here he comes pulling up, and he's got to rev his engine. Woo, woo,
Oh
woo.
yeah, yeah. You were telling. Yeah, I remember that.
Really?
Okay, nice car.
Really?
What else? What else?
Yeah, just now he's got his golden calf with him. So now he feels as if, can I get that number?
Or he was hoping that was yours. That's what her thing is. Like, I don't know, but and it's so automatic. We do it so automatically. That's why the importance of meditation and slowing down so you can
Right.
get clear and let reality, revelation come, because we all have something that we think that if without this, I am, and I'm being exaggerated when I say this, I am no thing. Like
Mhm.
without this, I am no thing. And it's not true. Or that with this, I am something, but you're always something. With or without it, whatever
Right.
that thing is that says you are, without it, you still are.
Right. And so let me because I could be, I find I'm being lighthearted about this. And so I could be irritating somebody who just found out that they had a golden calf. So
Fair enough.
um so I sorry if I stepped on toes, but let me say it this way. Anytime you have something that you are making a false god of, right? Whether you know it or do so knowingly or not, right? Whether even if that false god is something that you believe is legitimate, right? She is saying here that let me see if I could put it in her words. Or she says, well, I'm gonna read her stuff because I we talk about this stuff. Ooh, we talk about it in the Course in Miracles. We talk about it in the Bible. And at a certain point, we've got to recognize that what we were taught is that thou shalt put no other God before me, right? And so it is locating where God is for you, right? And it's not in things that perish. It's not in the things that you own. That sometimes those things that you think you own you, because they're basically telling you, get up, go make my money, get up, go, maintain this, get up, whatever it is. And so if you put your power, if you put your identity into something else, then that becomes this thing of saying or recognizing that you fear that as you are not enough. As you are not like the sun. You are not that thing in which God dwells. You are then outsourcing your power into something else. And simply by explaining it that way, I hope you can see that that is problematic.
Like actors and actresses, they have this, it's a known fact that psychologically they struggle with aging.
Mhm.
And if they have counted on their beauty or their suave or whatever it is to get them where they need to be, and it becomes their thing, their identity, and when that thing begins to change, as all of life does, then their value, they have to work on maintaining their value, even
Mhm.
as they age and change. But a lot of people struggle with that in entertainment.
Yeah.
They they struggle with losing that thing. It's a real thing. And it's like, who am I without this?
One of my friends yesterday sort of did the same thing. She started showing us pictures of herself when she was much younger. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, damn, don't you know you're beautiful right
Right
now?
now.
Right now. Beautiful. And yet she swipes and shows me another picture. And then she was like, but then I didn't have high blood pressure. And I was like, well, girl, shit, that maybe that's what 30 years cost, is a little high blood pressure. I don't know. But but I was just sitting there like, you know, it, yeah, it right now, being able to celebrate who you are, and what you, and the people that cannot see the beauty in that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
okay, beat it.
Mm-hmm.
Beat it. I'm just like, beat it. If you can't see and appreciate who I am here and now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Get this.
But if that's a problem, if there's fear that comes with that, that's the challenge, that the second chakra will, then you get the dis-ease. If you have the challenge in that space, that's the promotion of the dis-ease in the areas that we talked about in the beginning. Because
Yeah.
being able to be aware of that you're producing an affect, something's coming from that experience of disowning yourself, and
Yeah.
putting something before you, making it a false god.
Mm-hmm. So yes. Yes. So let me read a little bit of this, and so we can. Yes. Once seduced, we abdicate our control to the seductive authority,
Mm-hmm.
the dysfunctional personal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, and how often we do that. We talk. Sometimes it is my husband this, my wife that, my this, that, and the other. Um, to external source of money and supply or security, the external source of that, the experience remembered long after it should have been put to rest, or the ad- addiction to drugs or alcohol, or the addiction to drugs or alcohol. Now, sometimes people, I've talked about this idea, we've talked about this idea of people working on a deficit, right? Because so much of who they are has been negotiated away or given away. And so when we start to talk about addictions, whether it's to drugs, alcohol, sex,
People,
um,
right.
yeah, any of that stuff, that means, oh, my dog just passed gas. That, my gosh, it's like I just want to douse her with something. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Um, that is just it's like it's so bad you can taste it. It's
Oh
terrible.
my.
I'm sorry, y'all. That was like stinging. Oh my goodness. That's one of the things that dogs do when they sleep is just horrible.
Hmm.
So when you're operating on a deficit like that, it becomes really hard to figure out how to just get to solid ground.
Mhm.
Because when I think about the deficit of 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 being within an addiction, whatever that addiction is, that addiction becomes so it takes over. It takes over. And therefore, it is like being in a deep hole and trying to figure out how to just get onto solid ground.
Mhm.
And so that is another endeavor altogether. So hypnotized by the voice of fear, I'm gonna move on from that. Hypnotized by the voice of fear, one is unable to think or act with clarity.
Hmm.
Hypnotized by the voice of fear, one is unable to think or act with clarity because what you fear becomes so big. And the more you fear it, the bigger it gets. And a lot of times there is this voice sometimes that we hear. Sometimes I don't know if we talk about this all the time. Sometimes there is this voice. You could call it your editor. You could call it like the little thing that sits on your shoulder that says to you, "You can't do that." Or it'll tell you everybody's going to be watching you, or you can't say that, you can't ask for that. It's that little voice that's always acting as the negative that needs to be overridden.
Yes.
That voice, people think that it is like reality speaking to them, but that is not reality. It's this little sensor that we have in our heads that until you tell it to shut up, it will continue to inform all of your activities and actions. What's a good way to silence that darn thing?
Therapy. No. Uh,
People pay a lot of money to, yeah.
yes, they do. So I'll say one that stuck out for me. So I'm learning how to just go with the flow with things that just pop up to me for me when I'm not in the confounds of therapy in a room when I know people's backgrounds. But a lot of times people have messages from people that they have elevated as their gods, be it their mothers, their fathers, their teachers, the news, whatever they've constructed as the truth. And so to go against that truth sometimes causes people to stay in addictions or strongholds because I have to now go against that truth. And what am I going to do if I go against that truth? So what would happen? It's like that Marianne Williamson's quote about our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond belief.
Yeah.
And so, but if I've been told and made to understand that I am not,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm struggling. And it's this double-mindedness that keeps people stuck. It's the awareness, the insight in them that says, I'm amazing.
Right, right, right.
But I can't move into that. And for whatever reasons we give ourselves for why we can't move into, I don't have enough, whatever the stories are, because the narrative, I mean, the list is long. But it's getting rid of the messages that you decided to believe and rewriting the narrative. And
Mhm.
that it is such a courageous position to take, but the level of courage that it takes to move from that space is big, because when people get caught in addictions, I don't care what they are, sex, money, whatever the addictions are, you got to change your paradigm. And unless you're willing to hold up a mirror and know, I got to change my paradigm, and know that changing the paradigm is going to hurt like hell. That's why they got rehab centers. It hurts.
Right,
You know,
right,
they need rehab centers from releasing yourself from people, but they're $60,000 a month. But
yeah,
you have to have those experiences. Yeah, you got to be able to change the narrative. There's a
right.
narrative, there's a running narrative, a haunting. I call it a haunting that goes on in the mind and the heart of a truth. And then the body has taken over. Once the chemical is in the body, then the body does what the body does, and the spirit now is kind of quieted up, and it turns into dis-ease, because the
Wow,
spirit is like, I want out,
wow.
and the body is like, I got this.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. That, that brings up a lot of interesting thoughts for me. I have been watching, let me shift for a second. I've been watching a show called High on the Hog, which is on
Yeah,
Netflix.
you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think I mentioned the other day that when I was watching it, one of the things that they talked about was when they did the slave trade, they took people from out, from inland out to holding cells or these holding jails. So, we've talked about that and heard about that. And in those places, they would put people in these dark dungeons
Mm-hmm.
and hold them there for a specific amount of time because they wanted to disorient them. So you don't know night from day, you don't know, have a perception of time and who's with you, where you are, anything like that. They take you out of there, put you onto a ship chained together with a whole bunch of other people that you don't know. And then when you come up, they said that when the ship would come to those that made it through this voyage, when the ship came to the Carolinas, they chose that area too because it had some similarity to what the coastline looked like that they just left. So they might in their mind think that we done went and we spent all this time. We don't even know how long it's been because we didn't know night from day. We weren't able to count those things. But now here we are and we might be home, right? And to have that idea that you are coming into a port that might be the one that you just left, um, can be very disorienting. And so when you're talking about this idea of having a shift, sometimes um,
Oh,
sometimes we have to go through radical changes that radical change sometimes necessitates the our ability to break from one thing and go to another. Because I tell you,
oh yeah.
things, when you get ready to change your life, it ain't easy.
Oh,
It
oh
is
my goodness.
not easy to to
Oh,
to undo things that you have spent a lifetime learning, right? Whether it is and sometimes this is psychological stuff. I remember when I heard Alicia Keys talk about how when she finally started making some money at at her singing thing, when she started seeing the money come in, she was like, she didn't she was there was a part of her that was still just, although she bought nicer Timberlands, she was still wearing Timberlands and a t-shirt, and we saw her going through that, right? Not really recognizing in our minds that her mind couldn't make the jump from the poverty mindset into one that says, I'm able to go into the store now and spend $800 on some shoes if I want to. There's something that has to happen.
Yeah.
To to do to make that switch, to make that change, and it's not always easy. So whether we making a change from being in the deep dark hole to coming into our truth, right, that these false gods have no comparable power in comparison to the God that you are.
Right. So can you see the level of vulnerability it is to even decide that something has gone awry? I'm speaking of the slave trade, like that you're in such a vulnerable place, and so is the person who is imprisoned or enslaved to an addiction or a belief system. They are so disoriented. They are trusting me, they're trusting you to be a guide. If they're not where you found them, then I'm trusting you to guide this process for me and advise that there's going to be many times you want to turn around and get back on the boat. There's going to be many times, because that is familiar, as
Mhm.
opposed to the familiarity of something better, or an $800 pair of shoes, as opposed to, I don't know what Timberlands cost. But there's something familiar about this, as opposed to accepting the newness. This is foreign, and most likely when people are going through a healing, they are coming and breaking away from systemic belief systems. So they got a whole family system that believe like they believe before they stepped into my space, or before they step into your space, or have a new thought. So that can be really uncomfortable too, because now I'm the only person thinking like this.
Mm. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have to, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's some there, yeah, change is not it's for the courageous, but courage is in each and every last one of us.
Yeah. It's like ripping the fabric of our universe
Yeah,
and then
I like
trying
that.
to,
That's good.
yeah, you rip the fabric of your own awareness, of your own universe,
That's
and
so
then
good. I like
trying
that.
to retape it, reform it, and it's not fitting just yet. It's not fitting in spot just yet, and so it takes a minute for it to like, I got a spot out in my grass that's like that. When I decided that I was going to move around stuff, I dug up under the soil and I replaced it so that it's kind of like taking up a piece and then putting it, and it still hasn't taken root.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep watering it because I know that if I just keep watering it and doing what it needs to do, eventually it'll take root and I won't even know that it was something that I moved. Right?
It's called nurturing.
Yes, 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 yes. And so that becomes what all of us have to do if we want to change our life. So let me say this, because yesterday I had so many revelations as I sat there with my friends, right? We've talked about the second chakra. Let me read on, because I want to, this is what I want to, what comes up next. Well, not quite next. Let's see, I should write that down. So here, when she says, it says, hypnotized by the voice of fear, we are unable to think or act with clarity because one is contaminated with fear that short circuits creative energy and ideas, which gather their energy from that second chakra, right? So, yeah, so they're contaminated with fear. Fear is a block. Fear is blockage. And when you have fear, it's really hard to move beyond fear. Now, one of the things that I love that life has taught me is that fear is almost like this veil that covers over your desire. And the moment you touch it, because as you're looking at it, it seems ominous, it seems scary, it seems like it'll get you. But the moment you touch it, what you realize is that it falls away. It's just there to make you afraid. But if you keep moving towards it, you see the nothingness that it is. And so that's kind of, and so when I think about it, I think about all the times, this is how I do, I've psyched myself. I think about all the times when I have been in resistance, because there are times when I am so in resistance. Oh, I'm not going to that party. I'm not going to know anybody. Oh, I'm not going to spend that money because I don't know where the next is coming from. Oh, I'm not going to approach that guy because good girls don't do that. I got all of these different fears that would come up, right? And so the moment, so whatever it is, the moment I do it, what I get is better than I ever expected. So if I move beyond my fear, my faith is rewarded like triple fold, right? And so I always, so what I do is I have stuff that I can remember where I can say to myself every time I push my fear, push into my fear, I'm rewarded based on the faith that I have that this ain't gonna break me.
Right. And
So
that's what David said in the book of Psalms, that I remember all of the times of our victories. So
mm,
it's like remembering the victories so that you can push past the fears.
right. So she goes on to say, literally and symbolically, the second chakra is the birth canal.
It is.
Literally, right? And symbolically. So when I was talking about this is the sex organs, I'm loving that she is calling it the birth canal. Although this is what she says, although newborn ideas have their own energy field and will fight for survival,
Yay!
just as, yes, they have their own energy fields. Oh, I love that, right? And will fight for survival just as newborn infants do. Fear will often abort a new idea, right? So sometimes we convince ourselves of why we can't start that new business, why we can't invent that new product, why we can't go out on our own, why we have all of these things. And it is reason no, it is fear masquerading as reason. When you start telling me I'm practical, or what is it, I'm rational, this, that, people will tell you all of these things because they think that, if I just, put it like
Play
this,
it safe.
so
Yeah.
sophisticated that nobody will question it. Let's call it for what it is. It is fear masquerading as your own intelligence. So we got to recognize that fear will cause us to abort a process. I love that. If I mean, and if you don't get anything else out of today, hopefully it is how to deal with these things that are fears that come up for us. And this is not a one and done. This is an ongoing
Yes,
process,
no. Yes.
right?
And it's the magic of asking the magical questions like, is this what I really want to do? And why am I not doing it? If is this really what I want to do? Then why am I sitting here? Like asking the questions to tell yourself the truth.
Right, right. Okay, so let's see. Some people are afraid to give ideas or relationships the breathing room that they need to thrive.
Yes.
Now, I know a lot of people who, the minute they meet somebody new, they start the process of evaluating, right? They call it an evaluation. I am one of those people. I will tell you about how I am. I love a good conversation. I love to figure out how to be present, right? But I know that so many of us have been hurt in the past, and we convince ourselves as to why this won't work, why not this one, why I can't explore, And so what we do is we even before, in that infancy of stuff, we convince ourselves of why it will not work, rather than walking in the energy that says, okay, this is a possibility. Sometimes I have to confess this about myself. Sometimes I call myself one of those intuitive people, and I go with whatever it is that's my intuition is telling me. But at the same time, even that I question, right? So if I got this little voice in my ear that is telling me stuff like, whatever it is, we have these notions that, oh, I think she talks about this. Oh yeah, she does. So let me keep going. So we might feel, this is what she says, we might feel threatened, for instance, when an idea you have reaches the point where you need expertise other than your own for support.
Mm-hmm.
You might need a therapist, right? Or you might need let's say you need an accountant, or or a lawyer, or somebody who is actually invented something. Maybe you're writing a book and you need the advice of another author that has already been there.
Yes.
Sometimes we have a tendency to not trust people for whatever reason there is. We think that all accountants are going to take our money, or you have the doctors are just practicing. That doctors are just practicing. And so, we kind of convince ourselves that, we kind of convince ourselves that we can't. Sometimes I need to set reminders for myself. I'm sorry. I forgot to do something yesterday, and I needed to remind myself to do it. So sometimes we have this notion about getting help, and we don't do that. As a matter of fact, we rather give up on something than to figure out how to get the things in place that we need. So she says, or we may assume a position of ownership over an idea, meaning that because you birthed the idea, or so you think, it's yours, and therefore you control everything and everyone that is attached to it. Ooh, you know how we've done that, right?
Girl.
Oh my gosh. As a matter of fact, somebody was just saying to me we were talking about, you could talk about churches right here. There was at one time like 100 churches on this one street, right? You can go from one end of the street to the other, to the down where the street ends, and you run into 100 little churches, and they'd be like, why they can't just get together, right? Even if
Isn't that interesting how that's a common question, but not to the people who are putting up signs in front of the buildings? That doesn't occur to them. It's interesting.
Well, so it's funny though, because one of the things that especially my church beforehand, we rented from another church. It was like, why would we have to go and pay if you are done in that church by noon and it's gonna sit there the rest of a
Of the
week,
day and the week. Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Nobody else using it. Why can't we come in there and rent out some space and also use that, right? And so it becomes this thing of it's mine. And but then here's the problem, because people don't know how to share, right? We've not been taught how to share. So rather than there's some book I was reading, yeah, that was talking about this very thing. Rather than learning how to share, what we do is okay, let's see, I got the overhead on this center is this amount of money. Well, that church couldn't find a place to rent for this amount of money. So rather than me saying I'm gonna split this in half, if it's $600 a month to maintain this center, I'm gonna charge them 500, and then when they pay the 500, then we got our expenses covered, and we got this extra money over here, or blah blah blah. I mean, I can tell you that there have been times where I've rented places and you rent it and you thinking like, what am I paying this kind of money for, especially when you don't have access to it. But that's what we've learned. That's the business model that we've learned. And so therefore we've got this system set up where people distrust one another because they've been taken advantage of before. And so people, we got all these reasons for not wanting to share in stuff fairly. That this country, we know a lot about exploitation, but let me not go there anymore. So let me just pull that back. Both responses, right, frequently result in energy suffocation.
Yes.
When we are so busy trying to hoard, trying to control, trying to not let anybody else have a piece of our pie, we suffocate it, and therefore that smothering effect has the same effect that a fearful parent or partner would have. You suffocate an idea where it dies a slow death anyway. Yeah.
It's
So
heartbreaking. Like that just is.
yeah, it really is. But there's a lot of reasons why people have that kind of fear. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons that people have that kind of fear. And especially if people have taken advantage of a person before, you have the anticipation that it'll happen again.
Well, yeah, that's the
Or if
intelligence in us.
yeah,
Right.
or if you've seen it, or if you suspect it. And so she tells the story about this man named John who attended one of her workshops. And she said that John was in the midst of trying to expand his business. Let's just put it that way. He wanted to expand his business. And so what he needed was a new idea. And so he was really trying to figure out how to be open to a new idea. So he went and he got some business partners and kind of talked about some of the stuff that needed to happen and how to make that happen. So then him and these two new business partners, they go out and they find investors. So say, for instance, they get they get some more money coming in, they get an influx of cash. And so all of a sudden, whereas before John was open because he was looking for a new idea or a new concept, she says in here, the money changed John's attitude, because when the money started flowing in, then John decided, I got new business partners, but this is my baby.
My idea.
Right? Yeah, my idea, my baby. I need to be the person that is calling the shots here. And so as it started talking about and rationalizing around why he then needed to protect this idea, and make sure that it says he began to imply subtly that all the ideas were largely produced by his creativity, and therefore he should really be in charge of the next phase of the decision making. It said John's competition with his partners derailed his creative impetus, and 6 months later, a good portion of their initial investment capital spent, they still failed to produce one project, right? And so the three of them were finally forced to terminate their partnership and declare bankruptcy even before it got off the ground, right? And so John blamed his partners for the failure, and was convinced that they were simply jealous of his talent. So this idea that this idea of hoarding, of of not being open, all of those things can derail the very plans that we were trying to put in place.
Yeah, and it squashes the ideas because there's an energy. I don't know if you've been in a space. Well, like when we were in a space with a couple of summers ago, and we would all get together and be praying, and that energy. There's an energy when everybody just kind of tries to show up in their own whatever their energy is. And I just imagine if everybody just owned their own giftings and just brought them to the table,
Yeah.
whatever that is,
Yeah.
and honor it, and give it high praise, what I'm bringing to the table, my baby that I'm bringing to the table, and then letting the enhancement of it come from other people around. But when I think about it now, and I can see now from just our study, the resistance that shows up at the table automatically, there's this. And so
Yeah.
if I'm like this with, while I'm observing, judging, or trying to figure out your gifting, if I'm feeling this energy, what I do with my gift, I close up. I keep a wall around it to peek over the wall to see if it's safe to expose it
Right. Right.
in that
But
space. And that's just like so much tug of war going on.
but sometimes though, honestly, sometimes we can misread those things though too.
Oh yeah.
Like, because sometimes I have felt like, and this is my truth, right? Sometimes I feel like I overshare. And
And
I remember somebody said to me one time that people don't step up when they think somebody else all has it already. And so my thing has been, before, because I overshare, sometimes I do step back purposely. I know this is my truth. I don't know if anybody has ever noticed me doing this, but sometimes I do step back purposely, trying to give space to somebody else to show up. And so it becomes, to me, it is a maneuver to allow other people to speak. It may not appear that way to somebody else. They might think that I'm just, but that's been how and I don't know, other people may do that. But I remember hearing that a long time ago, that as long as somebody said to me that as long as you have somebody that is willing to do the work, other people will not. It's kind of like that 80-20 rule. If somebody is doing 80% of the work, the other, that other whatever, people don't feel as if they need to do anything. So you sit back, you step back, right? For whatever reason. I don't know if that always works, but it has certainly been something that I have done, and thought I was being generous in the process of allowing somebody else to to step out there or jump out there or doing whatever it is that they need to do. So I thought that this was, this idea that she shared about John and what John was doing was really something that worked very well when it came down to talking about how we can sabotage ourselves.
So I wanted to comment on that before my phone rings again.
Okay.
So just to be transparent, I had a very strong phobia of taking over. So in my trying to recover from taking over, I definitely pulled myself back. It was like if I wasn't appointed the leader, I wasn't going to be a leader,
Okay.
because of being the a type of having a takeover energy. Like I got this idea, I got that idea. Let's try this. Let's try that. So it kind of goes both ways. Like you can tell yourself, okay, well, I'll wait, or I'm gonna wait until I get permission to be a leader again. Yeah, when you shared that, I'm like, no, that's quite the opposite of me. I just was like, yeah, I don't want to take over. So I shrank, and that's my language.
Okay.
I shrank back, I pulled back
Yeah.
a lot.
And okay. Yeah. And so, so I guess how I process that is that, yeah, I recognize that I'm probably the same energy, like that. I can be one of those people that without thinking about it, because I know that there are some people who actually view themselves as competitive um or try to exert stuff. That is never my thing is never about a competitive type of idea, because I'm not a competitive person at all. That's not even in my thought system. But what I do is like, if I know my responsibility is to shine, I try to shine. And I try to shine in the sense of, let me dump all my stuff out here, even if my stuff may look bad or is not, not the prettiest thing, because if I put it all out here, then we could sort it out together. We could understand it together. And I know that there's something, because it didn't just happen for me by myself, right?
Right.
It
Mhm.
always happens for me, for something else or somebody else, the edification of something. So you will see me, and I'm going to talk about, I'm gonna be raw with it, because I hope I try to be respectful, because I know that in my rawness, everybody don't want to hear how raw I can be. Because I can really get raw, but yeah, I try to I don't want to be caught being embarrassed about stuff, because if you're embarrassed about stuff, or if you're shameful about stuff, then you can't put your stuff out there. And so
Mhm.
I think that that's part of my gifting, to be able to 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 bring something to the table and say, hey, let's sort this out together, right? So yeah, I don't know that I have that. I don't know that that is the motive behind what I'm doing, saying that I need to be doing something. I don't need to be doing anything other than just being loved. And I'm really checking that out too, because sometimes I don't always show up. Yesterday, one of my friends said something that really kind of shocked me, and my first thought was, when she said it, I think people I think people know you, but they don't always think about you when they say something that is their issue. So say for instance, if somebody says something about um like like a complexion question. I have had people, because complexion is big in our community, and I have had people say something about um like there, like if there's a question about light skin or dark skin stuff, and we all have everybody in our family, right? I got people in my family that's dark, just like I got people in my family that's lighter than me. And so when somebody says something, I'm always shocked by, like, what? Like, don't you know me?
Oh, yeah, I'm always like, well, I guess I'm invisible to you. And that's my language for myself when I have those experiences. Am I invisible? But
But
maybe in that little piece you are.
well, but you know what? I don't. I was like thinking to myself, like, okay, if you look at me just in like with your blinders on and not look at, like, not look at my life, not look at who's in my life, not look at all of the stuff about me. If you're just looking at me like this, you may miss it, right? You may miss something because you're stuck in your own stuff. But if you're really looking at me, you know that I got a spectrum. I got a spectrum, and that issue is not mine. That is not mine. That would be something that's yours. You got that. And sometimes I need to say that to people. You know what? That's your stuff. You got that. Because I ain't there. I'm not even thinking about that. Girl, I will be. That's crazy. So anyway, um, and so this idea of in the end of this thing, John was having this problem, and he was saying that he blamed his partners because they said he was of the mindset that his partners were jealous of him, right? And so I've had people that talk stuff about haters and being jealous and all of that stuff. And it's like, I pray that I ain't never in that category, because what I recognize is that my dreams and my vision is not somebody else's dreams or vision. So do you, right? Do you do your thing. I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna do my thing. Where we can mesh up, we mesh up, and where we don't, we don't. But I'm not looking at it like, oh, I got to run somebody else's race.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm supposed to be off of here, y'all. All right. I'm not running somebody else's race. I'm running my own. Girl, you were supposed to tell me it was time to go.
I'm doing a lot of things. So timekeeping is not one, obviously, right now. I'm doing a lot of things and I'm enjoying our conversation. So, but
Okay.
I'm fully present.
I'm sorry.
You fine.
I
I'm
usually
offended. Did
see
I
you
offend
looking
you?
at huh?
Did
I
I?
usually see you looking at the clock.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm doing my work. I'm listening. I'm enjoying the conversation. And timekeeping was not one of my things today. It's not one of the things that I did.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Miss Stephanie.
You're very welcome, Miss Sandra. Oh, don't. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
You're good. We're good.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. It's all beautiful. Everything is beautiful. It's all beautiful. So, all right. So we will pick up with this tomorrow. We're moving into this honor one another, the sacred truth of honor one another tomorrow. But for today, hopefully, this idea about fear and how our fear can play out. Yeah, hopefully you got some good stuff out of that. And to think about it
A lot
in,
of good stuff today.
yeah, think about it in terms of that voice that you hear, that you may call reason, or that you may call safety, or discernment, whatever it is that you call it, trying to justify it. Don't let that override what it is that in your heart that you really want to do. And don't block yourself. Don't be your own barrier. Figure out how you can move beyond, and then do that. That would be great. That would be great.
That's an awesome challenge. I know we've been
Yeah.
working on it yesterday and today. I mean, it's just an awesome challenge because fear produces, and that is like, yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. All right. So I love y'all. I
Love
blessed
you.
you. Thank you for being here, Stephanie.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope you have an amazing Saturday. Enjoy your golf
You
game
too.
if you go out
Yeah,
golfing. Yeah, my brother
man.
was supposed to be on the I think he was supposed to be out at the golf course at 8 a.m. So
Yeah, because it was gonna be hot today, so that's a perfect time. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Mm,
I got a meeting at 10.
me too.
I'm the treasurer, so I need to get my little paperwork in order, but I want to cut my grass in between now and then. I wonder how I could do that.
Oh, go do it now while it's semi cool out, Sandra. It's gonna be blistering today. I
Yay.
know. But
Okay.
you can put on your bikini and cut the grass.
I stay in the hood, girl.
Sorry. I was just saying, if you get out there in the 90s, you may have to wear your bathing suit.
Yeah, but these guys around here, they don't be having that notion that they can let you just, they think
Mind
they
your
gotta say
business.
something. They wouldn't be men if they ain't holler at you.
Oh, okay.
Ah,
Fair enough. Fair
really?
enough.
I mean, come
Say
on.
fun.
Yeah, I can do that in the backyard, not in the front though.
Right.
Go cut the front. All right.
All right. Have a
All
good
right.
one.
Have an amazing day.
You too. Bye bye.
All right. Love y'all. See ya.